Hey guys, welcome to The Strong Young Man. For a species to avoid extinction, it must be able to produce many strong, healthy offspring that can survive the environment it is exposed to. Women have a relatively long pregnancy, and raising a child is an 18-year investment. Women are only fertile for about 25 years at the most, and given the long gestation period, they need to make sure they make the best of each egg. Because women offer the greater reproductive sacrifice and are more limited in the offspring that they can produce, they need to be more sexually selective. This is known as the parental investment theory, coined by Robert Trivers in 1972. The theory is that the sex that invests more time and effort in raising the offspring and is more limited in the offspring that it can produce will be more selective when choosing a mate. And the less investing sex that can produce more mates in abundance will have intrasexual competition for sexual access. This theory explains the sex differences in sexual selection and mate preferences for almost all the animals in the animal kingdom, including humans. Since we diverged from the apes, women have always been more sexually selective than men. They had to be. Women can reproduce at most once every 10 months, whereas a man can reproduce once every 30 minutes. 1 egg per month is a much lower economy than 500 million sperm per ejaculate. This difference is what causes women to reserve their reproductive ability for the man most likely to ensure the survival of her offspring. Women are always looking to optimize their reproductive success, and mating with a man that increases the chances of a woman's reproductive success is the female metric for mating. The simplest way to view this is that a woman will only consider men who are equal to or higher than her in sexual market value. All men who do not meet this metric are reproductively invisible to a woman. This sexual strategy is known as hypergamy, the action of marrying or forming a sexual relationship with a person of a superior sociological or educational background. Our male ancestors that had higher levels of testosterone and a strong physical presence such as a large frame produced offspring that had a greater chance of survival. These men with alpha characteristics were also the men that were able to extract the most resources from the surrounding environment to give to a woman and her offspring. The men most capable of this were considered high-value men, and they were granted all the sexual access, while the other men, they lucked out. In fact, about 8,000 years ago, just after the advent of agriculture, 17 women reproduced for every one man. Although much has changed in the last 2.4 million years, our paleo-mammalian cortex has not. This aspect of the mammalian brain still operates the same, even if it's subconscious. Women still look to optimize their hypergamy in 2022, and perhaps now more than ever. Women still sexually select the best mate that they can attract from the men available within the sexual marketplace. With the arrival of Instagram, a woman now has access to men on a global scale. Women make their selection based off the attention that they get and the men that are available within the sexual marketplace. With access to men worldwide thanks to online dating and Instagram, women are adapting to the widened dating market by being more sexually selective. Here is the unflattering reality about how women mate select. A woman's primary mating strategy is to offer her reproductive ability to the most dominant alpha man that she can attract within the sexual marketplace. Men with imposing physical characteristics such as height, upper body strength, symmetrical appearance, and a good jawline are favoured by women exercising this strategy. Men who can command the attention of a room or who can demonstrate that they are socially dominant are also highly sought after. These traits strike at a woman's innate arousal cues to produce strong, healthy alpha boys that can thrive in the sexual marketplace. This is the most accurate assurance of long-term reproductive success. As a woman becomes aware of her waning sexual market value, around 30, and she has not been able to attract a man that she believes that she is entitled to according to her sexual market value, a woman will have to move to a backup sexual strategy. A woman's secondary mating strategy revolves around her granting sexual access to a non-dominant beta male who has a demonstrated ability to provide resources on an ongoing basis. Rather than seeking out men with alpha characteristics, a woman will settle for the proven ability to provide resources. Understand that this secondary strategy does not elicit the same arousal cues as a woman's primary sexual strategy, because men in this category do not elicit the same response in a woman's limbic system as a man with alpha traits does. Remember that an alpha male is more likely to pass on alpha traits to his male offspring and hence provides more potential for that child to thrive in the sexual marketplace, which increases the chances of him reproducing in the long term, furthering a woman's reproductive success. Whereas a beta male with resources will be able to provide resources immediately, but will not pass on alpha traits, which resulted in a reproductive dead end in the Paleolithic era. Understand that an alpha male with an abundance of expendable resources is the highest value man in the sexual marketplace, and women will often be okay sharing these men sexually with other women. Think Tiger Woods, Errol Flynn, Genghis Khan, and other movie stars and rock stars. Women in their peak years who have maximised the utility of their sexual market value can have any man they desire in the sexual marketplace. Because of this abundance, women with a high sexual market value will be able to exercise their primary strategy freely. As this ability deteriorates, a woman will have to make some concessions and settle for a male with a lower sexual market value to match her own declining sexual market value. Women who have not maximised the potential of their sexual market value in their peak years may be unable to exercise their primary sexual strategy to a degree to their satisfaction. As a result, these women may have to move over to their secondary sexual strategy prematurely. Understand that once a woman has moved over to a secondary sexual strategy, she has not abandoned her primary sexual strategy at all. It actually lays dormant. In fact, women actually prefer using their primary sexual strategy if they can employ it. A woman who has moved over to a secondary sexual strategy is more than capable of returning to a primary sexual strategy and granting sexual access to a man with alpha traits in the right circumstances. Within a woman's own menstrual cycle, her hormones are responsible for causing an unconscious shift in preference between exercising her primary sexual strategy around ovulation period and exercising her secondary sexual strategy towards the menstruation period. Research has shown that women who are at the most fertile stage of their menstrual cycle prefer the body odour of men with higher testosterone, as well as rated the men with deeper voices and a thick jawline to be more attractive. This phenomenon is known as ovulatory shift. Interestingly, women who are on the pill elicit no such response. Humans have always been polygamous creatures. The data on this is pretty clear. For early humans who could not ensure paternity, it better suited a woman to mate with an alpha man during ovulation, but to mate with everyone else during other periods of her cycle. It is for this reason that a woman's fertility evolved to be almost invisible to men, and sex evolved to be a private act, something not commonly seen in the animal kingdom. The more men that mated with a woman during a particular cycle, the more men would parentally invest, nurture, and care for that offspring. This is an evolved strategy that is still alive today. It's not uncommon for a woman to mate with a high testosterone alpha male, but ensure another male who can provide the most resources is tricked into fathering the offspring. This strategy actually exists in other animals in nature too. The cuckoo bird will often raid the nests of other species such as reed warblers and brown-hooded doles, eating one of the eggs in the surrogate mother's nest and replacing it with one of their own. The other species unknowingly continues incubation on behalf of the cuckoo. The cuckoo egg hatches a few days before the other eggs and will destroy the other eggs in the nest as to gain exclusive access to the surrogate mum's food. The baby cuckoo continues their charade by mimicking the cry of the baby of the surrogate species, to which the surrogate mother responds by feeding the cuckoo bird as if they were their own offspring. Prior to paternity tests, it was not uncommon for a woman to fraudulently claim the paternity of her child to be the man that she sees as having the most resources. This was really easy for women when there was no contraception and no DNA testing. Women could easily have an affair with a high testosterone alpha male and then claim the husband who provides the ongoing security is the father of their child. This person who unwittingly invests parental effort in juveniles that are not his own is called a cuck or a cuckold after the cuckoo bird. In fact, many scientists believe that this polygamous practice was so prevalent that the male glands or head of the penis evolved to remove sperm of other males during sex while depositing their own. This is why the penis goes flaccid immediately after sex, to ensure that the sperm remains within the vagina. Semen also has spermicidal properties within it that destroy other sperm cells present within the vagina. Research shows that 1 in 5 children born inside a relationship does not belong to the man of that relationship. It is higher in lower socioeconomic cultures and lower in higher socioeconomic cultures, but the figure averages to be about 1 in 5. In most cases, the man knows absolutely nothing about it. It's much more prevalent than is currently understood. Due to the social unacceptability of this behaviour, women will often go to the ends of the earth to bury this secret. Women cheat either because they found a man that exhibits more alpha traits than their current man, or they cheat because they aren't adequately satisfied with something that was extremely important to their long-term security, either financially, emotionally, sexually, or any other unique in-depth desire. If a woman identifies a mate that arouses her more or offers more security to her satisfaction, they will secure the new mate before letting go of the last mate. This concept is known as monkey branching. In the same way, a monkey will swing from branch to branch, not letting go of the previous until they have a firm grip on the next. Women will monkey branch over to a new mate, not letting go of the previous until they are certain they have a firm grip on the next. This is an evolved behaviour from the Paleolithic era, where women could not go extended periods of time without access to resources. A woman needed to secure resources from a new mate before she was able to relinquish resources from her current mate. Understand this one, guys, because it's important. A woman will often check out of a relationship months before she terminates it. The time difference is how long it takes her to secure attention and resources from a new mate. A woman's conditions may be such that she never has to tap into these predispositions, but they still exist. Understanding female nature means understanding that a woman's evolved sexual strategies are contingent upon context, culture, and vary with personal condition. The complex psychological adaptations created by a long history of evolution enabled many strategies for coping with the challenges of mating. Women are not slaves to their mate selection strategies, they merely use them as part of their repertoire. Many women will act on their primal urges without analysis or even awareness. Most of the time, when a woman is confronted, she will deny its existence entirely. A woman's admission of the unflattering realities of mate selection are proportional with her ability to get away with it. If she is more likely to get away with it, she's more likely to admit it. Generally, the higher a female's sexual market value, the less she has to play the sexual marketplace to satisfy her hypergamy. A woman less likely to satisfy her hypergamy has a much more personal investment in keeping the unflattering methods of mate selection a secret from men. Just because a woman doesn't understand her own primal urges does not mean that you as a man can't. As a rational male, it's up to you to understand female nature so that you can mitigate the consequences of being ignorant. Something to be aware of is that women will always be looking to trade up in the sexual marketplace until they have a man who negates their hypergamy. Most men become invisible to women when their hypergamy is satisfied, but this is a rare phenomenon. A woman will regularly assess what she is capable of attracting according to her own sexual market value at the time. During her peak years, she'll try and maximize its utility. A woman will decide on a subconscious level whether her hypergamy is satisfied according to the value of the men that she gets regular attention from. As a woman's value increases in her early 20s, her newfound sexual agency will cause her to reassess what she believes she is entitled to based off the value of the men that she receives attention from. Generally, a woman will be happy if she is in a long-term relationship with someone of at least 1 to 2 points higher on the sexual market value scale. This, however, doesn't account for how the sexual market value of men and women change differently over time. A man's sexual market value peaks later, at the same time as a woman's is on the decline. By 36, the average man has reached his relative sexual market value apex. It's at this stage of his life that his sexual, social, and professional appeal have reached maturity. A 36-year-old man married to a 36-year-old woman can become aware of his ability to attract younger women with ease. This man may also undergo some reflection of his own and choose to exercise his options at the expense of his woman, in the same way a woman might have done to him in his early 20s. A woman's hypergamy drives her to achieve her best potential, but doesn't want to risk the prolonged personal investment if a man's potential future sexual market value could rise so far above her own that he leaves her. A woman must optimize her selection to account for a man's future potential while satisfying her female hypergamy, because if a man decides to exercise his options and leave a woman, it will mean that all of that woman's investment is lost. A woman may be left several years older and unable to attract a man that she feels that she is entitled to. This will increase her frustration in the sexual marketplace and at men in general. This is when a woman becomes an angry feminist, resentful to men, and pushes for equality of both sexes so that she can re-experience her high sexual market value years. Disgruntled and unable to attract attention from men, she will adopt a cat in lieu of having children. Women have certain strategies to prevent this from happening. One of them is to ensure that men never ever are put in situations that allow them to come into awareness of their real value, especially when it's more than 3 to 4 points above hers. Women will fiercely protect their asset by whatever means necessary. Another tactic employed is to vehemently deny everything presented to you in this episode today. Again, a woman's admission of female nature is proportional to her ability to use it to her advantage. The final tactic is to shame men who are in their peak years who choose to exercise their options with women in their peak years. They do this in the hope that generating a fear of excommunication will ensure that all men adhere to a woman's sexual strategy. Probably the most difficult thing that a man can ever come to terms with is that a woman will never love a man in the way that a man loves a woman. Pay attention here, gents. A woman will never love you in the same way that you love her. I'm not saying that women don't love men. I'm saying that women love men differently to the way that men love women, and hence the way men expect to be loved by women. A woman will love you, but only under the condition that you are able to satisfy her hypergamy to a degree that she believes that she is entitled to, according to her sexual market value. Basically, a woman's love is contingent on a man's capacity to maintain the conditions that negate her hypergamy. A man is completely capable of loving a woman without this condition. Rollo Tomassi put it perfectly when he said that a man's love for a woman is idealistic and a woman's love for a man is opportunistic. This translates into the way that men and women objectify each other. Men objectify women as sex objects, and women objectify men as success objects. If you doubt all of this, then analyse a woman's actions. If you apply critical thinking and deductive reasoning, you'll be able to connect dots that just become too hard to ignore. Their actions are just too consistent to be a coincidence. Take a look at Mike Tyson's autobiography, Undisputed Truth. There are many examples of female nature exploiting the vulnerable young Mike. who is unaware of their capabilities. The consequences of this follow him and his children around to this very day. This is only one of a million examples of female nature, which become much more obvious to you once you begin to see females through the lens of knowledge discussed in this video. Understand that women have adapted to become very clever, ensuring the social conventions that suit their own mating strategies are maintained. Almost all of the social conventions in the 21st century suit the female sexual imperative and sterilise the male sexual imperative. Just understand that nothing about female sexual strategy is fair to men. But then again, nothing about the brutalities of the animal kingdom are fair either. You don't see a deer complaining when a wolf kills all of its brothers. The deer just understands that it's in a wolf's nature. The deer learns from the demonstration and then just gets on with life. The same attitude should be taken by you towards females and female nature. Do not become resentful towards women for their evolved inclinations, as you as a man have your evolved inclinations too. Become aware of their capabilities and learn to be more careful to avoid experiencing the darker aspects of female nature. What might make it easier for you to accept female nature is understanding that female nature is how you came to be born. You were born from a long line of successful reproductive men and women. Because women filtered out the inferior males, we became genetically superior over time. This is how humans have evolved. Women are just the gatekeepers of reproduction. Women are just the ones responsible for the evolution of our species through natural selection. This is why we symbolically consider nature as feminine. It's Mother Nature. Allow me to read a fable from the ancient Greek Aesop titled The Scorpion and the Frog. A scorpion and a frog meet on the bank of a stream, and the scorpion asks the frog to carry him across on its back. The frog asks, "How do I know you won't sting me?" The scorpion says, "Because if I do, I will die too." The frog is satisfied and they set out, but in midstream, the scorpion stings the frog. The frog feels the onset of paralysis and starts to sink. Knowing they both will drown, the frog has just enough time to grasp, "Why?" The scorpion replies, "It's in my nature." Gentlemen, you must be aware of female nature. Never place yourself in a position where a woman's primal urges could leave you crippled. It's about protecting yourself. Even if it's not in a woman's best interest, she still may exercise her own hypergamy, even to her own detriment, like the scorpion. By becoming aware, it allows you to be proactive in order to counter their tendencies rather than reactive to their actions. And that is the true antidote to suffering at the hands of women. Being aware of female nature doesn't completely immunise you from being hurt, but it does allow you to be more careful. After all, a sharp blade still cuts, but being aware of its ability to cut you will enable you to handle it with a little more care. Thanks for watching today's episode. In episode 8, I'll be talking about male nature. Subscribe and hit the bell icon to be notified when it drops. Catch you then.